Hi everyone. So today I've come up with a topic as per the request from one of the subscribers about sexual grooming. Because I think 2 years back during the COVID period I talked about sexual grooming, and for those who haven't heard of this term, let me just explain. So sexual grooming is nothing but it's an act of a sexual predator who has a clear-cut plan to manipulate the victim. The victim and the predator can be of any age group, any race, any religion, anything. So only with the idea of getting the sexual benefits, he or she would strike a relationship with the victim. So the details of this I've already talked about in English as well as in Tamil video. The description, I will give you the link to those videos, so please look into it. Because in this video I'm going to focus on the aftermath of the victims. So I would have talked about like what really happened to the victims after the grooming, and what is the mental status, what is the physical and mental state of the victim, and the emotional state of mind of them. And this video I'm going to focus on what can be done to the victim so that they can come out of this trauma. Because sexual grooming itself is a traumatic experience once the victim realizes that they've been groomed. But the irony is that the victim to realize that they've been groomed actually happens quite late, and sometimes unfortunately it never happens at all. And I don't know, you would have heard about this term, like, you know, for example, being in a love for 4 months and in a therapy for more than a year. So I'm not telling the exact statement, but this is what it sounds like. That means how much over of months you are into this toxic love or a sexual grooming. In order to come out of it, you may need to be in months of therapy. And I myself counseled a lot of victims of sexual grooming, especially in their teens as well as in the middle age group also, women who belongs to the middle age group also, pathetically. And they've taken a quite long time after a very short experience of sexual grooming, let's say about 4 to 5 months or even 6 months, because this kind of relationship does not exceed 6 to 8 months or even, let's say, max of 1 year. But then the hurt and the wound, which is very deep, and for it to heal, it may take even a lifetime. And if fortunately, if an intervention like this, counseling happens, probably they can come out of it within a year or so, but it's quite challenging. So only first piece of advice from me would be, please prevent yourself from sexual grooming by looking into the video I've given in the description to spot the abuser, to spot the sexual predator, so you can be very safe from these kind of predators, like how lions and all those animals live in the jungle. Similarly, we are living in a very unsafe world where we have such sexual perpetrators and predators all around you. They look very normal. Okay, without going much deep into those context, let me quickly talk about like what can be done to this victim. So the number one step is first realize, after seeing the video and after all the awareness, please understand that you're sexually groomed. So the very term that you're groomed itself says that you're not responsible for what has happened to you. But I wouldn't say like you shouldn't take any responsibility, because always as a psychologist I would always recommend people to take responsibility only to learn from the experience, and you shouldn't do the same kind of mistakes ever again. But again, the irony of these victims is that they fall for such worst relationship again and again and again. They would see their pattern building up. Like, let's say they were in a relationship, the first relationship, because of the sexual grooming has happened, and after which they leave a gap of 6 to 8 months, or even sometimes immediately they fall for another relationship which is again toxic, and again they go for another relationship, then it's again toxic. So because they actually have a phenomenal change in themselves, a very negative change in themselves to their self. The self is something which is to be preserved a lot, but then there is a hurt to the self, and the self is, you know, kind of rewritten, and they feel that they are at fault and I'm bad. This kind of core belief stays in their mind forever, and because of which they attract all this kind of toxic patterns again and again in their life. So for this to stop, and for the relationship to flourish, and for them to have a healthy life, and for them to have a happy married life, because this kind of sexual grooming can have a very bad impact on their relationship, let's say love relationship or marriage or relationship with their children, or how they relate to their whole family members, everything goes for a toss. Because especially if a child who has been groomed, they would feel like they were not protected by their parents, and the relationship with the mother, father definitely would go for a very bad, bad shape. So, and especially for children, if that's the case, imagine about, the middle-aged woman or even a teen, they would also have a very bitter relationship later with their own parents. So for all that not to happen, it's first thing you got to realize is that you're being groomed, and by knowing the signs of grooming and all that, for this acceptance to come itself, it might take some weeks or even months. And that is the first step to coming out of this trap or this kind of trauma, I would say. And the next thing is to assume some responsibility. Okay, fine, let me be very clear about this. I should not attract these kind of people. For that, I need to change myself, the way I look into myself. For that, first you need to understand the difficult emotions you're going through, like sense of shame, sense of humiliation, embarrassment, and many negative emotions, mixed bags of emotions you would be feeling. And you just have to process it, accept it, and then let go of it. So for that, you should not deny that I don't even go through such feelings. First, you can't even, say that, nothing has happened to me. You just have to come into terms with the reality and also accept that, yes, I've gone through it. And you shouldn't be in the denial saying that, this is all never my fault. Somewhere it was also, I wouldn't say like you are responsible for this grooming to happen, but I only would say that you please safeguard yourself so that you don't fall for this trap ever again in your life. And the next thing is to, as I told you, not assume the complete responsibility for what has happened to you. The groomer, whoever is the sexual perpetrator or the predator, is responsible for what has happened to you. So you need to not completely take the blame by yourself, because by completely internalizing the blame in yourself, you start feeling very bad about yourself. Even though you outwardly deny that, I'm not responsible and all that, inwardly you start feeling that somewhere I gave in. So, but then please don't ever think, because it's all the, all the kind of sweet talks this groomer has given to you, you would have actually fallen for this trap. So only thing is, take responsibility only for learning from this experience, learning to spot these people in future. Nothing else is your fault. And all these emotions, they would have gaslighting would have happened, and a lot of confusions would have happened, self-doubt would have happened, because of all of which you would have had your self-esteem go very down. So the first thing is to accept yourself. Accept yourself. Okay, this has happened and I'm still fine. It's not like phenomenally made some, that does not like physically caused any wound or mentally caused any wound. It has. But then you should not completely accept that I've changed forever and I'm a bad person and I'm never going to be good. This is a chapter of life which is worst. Okay, you need to take this as just one chapter of life and move on with your life. And this has caused a lot of negative consequences, like because of which you would have lost your trust and had a relationship impact, as well as you don't know how to keep boundaries with people, and you may have to face certain triggers which will come back, and upset you, and it will remind you of those kind of days you had with the abuser. And really sometimes you may even seek such abuser in future, which may be confusing you. I don't like him, but I really want to go behind him and stalk him, and all these mixed feelings would make you feel again bad about yourself. Why am I so bad? Why am I seeking? Do I want sex or what? Why my mind is being so corrupt? But then please understand, you're being sexually activated, even whatever age group you are, maybe even 8, 9, 11 or whatever age group. Now you're being sexually activated and sensitized. You need to get a lot of education about sex, and you should know how to handle this term, because very important that it will change the attitude towards sex forever, which is going to be very difficult for your married life as well. So whenever you are going to have intimacy with your spouse, then that moment this kind of abusive experiences may crop up and making you feel like, I'm not for it and I want to avoid it or suppress it or deny it or whatever. So immediately after this kind of grooming, it's very important that you get that emotional first aid, just to change the whole thing, whole emotional experience in a positive way, rewrite it in a positive way. I wouldn't say in a positive way, oh, this has happened in my life, not that way. It's going to be like, redefine these emotions. So you would have to learn certain skills, like how to maintain boundaries, and how do I look at myself, what is my attitude towards myself, as well as how do I think about men in general, and usually women or men who has undergone in this grooming. It can happen to both the genders, by the way, but mostly it happens to women. That's why I often keep using the term. So definitely it happens to both the genders. In those cases, the attitude towards the opposite sex changes forever again. So So it is going to have a lot of difference in the attitude, the way you look at the opposite gender. It's going to be very negative. And also the way you look into the relationship, it's again going to be like the way you look at sex, it's going to be negative. So immediately after such grooming or any kind of sexual trauma you've faced, you need to really process these emotions and not let that redefine your attitude in a negative way. Time to again rewrite in a positive way, saying that you need to develop again a positive attitude towards sex, because which is ultimately good. And next thing is you have to develop a positive attitude towards opposite sex, because just because one person has actually groomed you doesn't mean that everyone in this belonging to this gender is going to be sick-minded, because from that moment onwards you would stumble upon people who are going to be belonging to the same category. It's just because of your cognitive distortion, because we see what we want to see. So it's again a distorted view of ourselves, because a lot of good men and women are out there. So just don't redefine, just don't define it in a negative way. And one more thing is how you're going to look into relationship, because the trust would have got hurt very badly. So you need to start trusting people again for who they are, and little bit being careful about the judgment, and just being aware of these aspects and about sexual grooming and all that will allow you to be safe in future. So you need not worry about striking a relationship with a new person all over again. I'm sure the hurt is going to be, the wound is going to be there. And again, one more thing is you may have to fall onto the triggers, because you need to be aware of what are the triggers which would again surface those negative feelings, a sense of humiliation, sense of shame and embarrassment all over again. But then again, when these kind of triggers you are placed, you need to take a deep breath, process those emotions, say again the same core belief that you are not responsible for it. And you need to let go of yourself, and you should not have any self-doubt which has been implanted on your head by the groomer. And you should not feel like, I'm a very bad person, I'm a slut, oh, I've been just going behind him for physical needs. And all this is not true about you, that you need to really take care of. And again, the last thing is you need to take care of your own self. You need to, register to yoga class or meditation class or any fitness classes, and time to take care of your physical health, which will again take care of your mental health in turn. As well as you need to talk to people whom you can trust, not about this experience all the time. You need to only talk about this experience to one or two trustworthy people in your life. If not for a psychologist, at least talk to your trustworthy friends, but make sure whom you talk about problems, because they also have the whole idea of redefining this in an ill way possible, because their own past experiences, they may say, oh, these men are very bad, these women are like this, and you should really start hurting them. And I've seen a lot of victims of grooming, they would become a groomer themselves later. So they will have this kind of hostility towards opposite sex, and they start to have, this kind of revengeful attitude consciously or unconsciously, and start being a groomer themselves. Please don't ever make this mistake. Okay. So this does not teach you any lesson that this whole gender is bad. This is just going to teach a lesson. There are certain people, like in a jungle you find these kind of predators. There are few predators in our own world, but doesn't mean that the entire world is sick. And there are definitely good people out there. And that belief in people should never go negative at any point of time in your life. And I told you, if you really want to seek support, and if you really want to lodge a police complaint, if you're a minor, you need to get the help of the elders in your family. And if you're a major, you can definitely get the help of your family support or your friends. Don't ever shy away. If you really want to lodge a police complaint, there are a lot of support help services available. A lot of NGOs are working on the same. There are a lot of helpline numbers are available. So you really have to expose these perpetrators so that they don't spoil the life of another victim, of another person who may become a victim later. So in this way, the emotions have to be handled, the emotional first aid have to be given, and they have to redefine the attitude towards self, another person, towards sex, and develop the trust on the humanity all over again. And after all this, your wounds will be still there, but it will start healing the moment you're going to accept it. And you have to just work actively on the same. And I'm sure in the time is a great healer. You come out of it, and you have to just keep up your mind open for another beautiful relationship, and make sure you don't make the same mistake again by choosing a sick partner. And once your inner world is beautiful, and when you're going to develop your inner world and up your self-esteem and all that, I'm sure you will definitely attract only positive people in your life who will definitely never hurt all over you again. And you need to be aware of this attachment pattern also. You should not become very insecure, and this trust issues, everything have to be handled. If you really find it very difficult to handle it all by yourself, you need to really seek a professional support for the same. And because every time when you're trying to come out of it, you'll again fall for another either a boy or a girl who might be trying to groom you all over again, because you're sexually active and you're still wanting that the place is again a big vacuum, and you really want that compliments all over again. So your self-esteem or dopamine is asking for it again and again. So this is like a withdrawal symptom when the perpetuator is missing. Even you want someone to fill the gap, and you may call it as like a trauma bonding or whatever. So for in such cases, when it's very severe, please don't ever hesitate to go for a professional help. So I hope this video would have helped you, people who have been victims of sexual grooming or any kind of sexual trauma you're going through, or your friends or whoever. Please pass on this video and share it with as much as possible, and also spread the word that there shouldn't be anyone in this whole world who should be a victim of sexual trauma anymore. Okay, so let's catch up in another video. So take care, have a lovely day, bye.